Hello and welcome to the Horsemanship and Mindset podcast with your host, Kimberly Dunn of Idlewild Horsemanship and Mindset Coaching. This podcast is here to bring you the very best in tips, tricks, and advice to help you better understand yourself, your mindset, and your horse, because your horsemanship starts with you. Let's go. Hello, welcome back to the Horsemanship and Mindset podcast. I'm delighted to have you here as always. And this week's episode is going to be a little different because this week I received a message from one of my lovely listeners. And she said something that really kind of struck me, and I think it's really important to talk about. So she told me that she'd been hearing from a couple of friends who compete and who have, family that compete in the UK, saying that they're nervous about going out and eventing after hearing and seeing news about the recent tragedies that have happened in the eventing world. Tragedies that have happened this year, but then also, we had them last year as well. And first of all, I want to acknowledge those riders, the families and friends, and everyone else who's been affected by that, because moments like that, ripple through our whole horsey community, and it's a difficult thing. But today's conversation isn't about those incidents in themselves. It's about something that happens afterwards that kind of is the ripple, or well, the domino effect of that. It's looking at how we stay compassionate and empathetic, and how we stay informed, how we honour, what's happened and the people involved, but then don't allow fear to then quietly become, a thing in our riding, or our time with our horses. And do you know what? While this is a focus on the equestrian world specifically, of course, because that's what the podcast's all about, I think this is actually really relevant to events in the world in general. I know that I myself, I try my best to not listen or watch the news nowadays, because it is a lot of, tragedy and doom and gloom, and, the global warming and the world's ending and all of the wars, and there's so many terrible things happening. There is no balance in our media at all either. They're never reporting on good things and all the amazing things that happen in the world. It's always this is a whole other conversation, isn't it? But it's the same there. Like, how do you kind of keep yourself healthy mentally? But then also you do want to stay informed and you want to honour, tragedies and things that happen and be aware of things. But how do you have that balance? How do you do it and not be driven absolutely nuts? So actually, this is relevant for the horse world, but also for the world in general at the minute, which is becoming a more and more crazy place, and we just get more and more scary things happening out there. So let's talk about it. So us as equestrians, we're more connected now than ever, aren't we? Because of social media mainly. One incident can happen somewhere, and it doesn't even matter now where in the world that incident might be. News spreads of it quickly, doesn't it? Because of social media, we end up consuming the same story dozens of times over and over again, we don't just hear it once, we see it. We see headlines, we see discussions and comments and videos and speculation, and then we see tribute posts and different people's opinions on it. And so our brains then, because we're seeing this over and over and over again in different forms, our brain doesn't distinguish between actually witnessing something and seeing something happen or whatever and repeatedly consuming it. So either way, our brain's taking all of this in and experiencing it. And then when we look at the neuroscience behind that, our brain is thinking, right, okay, we've been through that. And so what it does is it goes into protection mode. It's trying to protect us. So when we feel something emotionally significant, because you can't, when horrible things like that happen in any world, but again, we're focusing on the horse world, it's difficult for us to see a post or to hear about something tragic happening and for us to not feel emotion about that because we are equestrians. And so, of course, we relate. And of course, we have those feelings and, our hearts go out to family and friends and witnesses and all the rest of it. We feel it, don't we? And because we feel it and we connect to it, our brain is then thinking, okay, we've experienced it. And so that's where the defenses start to come up because our brains start asking, could that happen to me? Of course it asks that, and that's normal. Because the brain naturally overestimates risk after vivid emotional events. Okay, so because again, we hear it and we see it over and over again, our brains begin judging likelihood by how easily examples come to mind. And because we've seen these stories over and over again, it suddenly feels as though this danger has massively increased, even if the actual statistical risk hasn't changed. Okay. So then, especially if you compete, especially if you get out eventing, of course, then it feels riskier to you now. Now, here's what I would like you to know, aside from that, and aside from, us now worrying more because of what we've seen and heard. We can hold compassion for people we've never met. We do it all the time, don't we? For celebrities or, I don't know, you watch a film and you can relate to a film that you're watching and a character that, of course, isn't real, but you still feel that compassion, you know? We're allowed to feel sadness. We're allowed to feel compassion. We can learn lessons where appropriate, but we don't have we don't have to take that fear home with us. It's two very different things, okay? Empathy and compassion do not require from you emotional self-sacrifice, okay? Empathy and compassion for others is a beautiful thing. Excuse me. Do I have empathy and compassion for Mavis right now? No, I do not when I'm trying to record a podcast. Please excuse her. So empathy and compassion are beautiful, beautiful things. And, we should all, I would hope, feel those things, but they do not require us to emotionally self-sacrifice ourselves. Okay. Now, here's how I want you to approach or here's how I would suggest you approach your riding moving forward. If you are finding yourself now like, starting to question things or starting to feel nervous or anxious or second guessing things now because suddenly your anxiety or your worry or catastrophizing has been heightened because of recent events, So start asking yourself questions like, and this is for, if you're out competing. So I want you to ask yourself, is my horse ready? Is my horse ready for this? Have I put enough? Like, I'm sure you've been working and you've been doing all the things. If you're out competing, you've been putting the work in. So is my horse ready? Am I prepared? Have I trained appropriately? Is this competition suitable for me and my horse? And what is true for us today? Because those questions help you bring things back to actual facts rather than imagined futures. Okay? Because the bare bones of this, the bottom line of this is you aren't riding that course. You aren't that parsnip. Parsnip, flipping heck. You aren't that partnership. You aren't that situation. You're riding your horse, who you've been riding up to now, who you've been training up to now, who you've already been out competing up to now, today, in this moment. This is totally different. Okay? So hopefully that helps. But also, let's zoom into the now, into this moment, into you listening to this podcast. So if you're already anxious, here's some things that are going to help you, like, practically. So try not to spend hours reading comments on posts about this. Try not to consume every single discussion. Don't repeatedly watch footage or look at photos. Don't spiral through Facebook, because we all know that never ends well. Because the thing is, repeatedly exposing yourself to this, your nervous system doesn't know the difference between you preparing for danger and you repeatedly rehearsing danger. Okay? Now, you not reading through comments, looking at these posts, acknowledging things, etc., that doesn't mean you're not being respectful or honoring. Like, do what you need to do to honor people and to honor, loss or friends or family. Do what you need to do that. But you don't need to keep exposing yourself to things in a way that is detrimental to you. You are allowed to please go and honor them. Please go and, please pay respects. Please do what you need to do, but then let go. Do not keep exposing yourself to things that are not making you feel good. Okay? And just because you're not doing that doesn't mean you think any less of any of it. You don't need to keep putting yourself through it. Okay. And that goes for, recent tragic events in the horse world, but also around the world too. Because God knows there's plenty of that going on at the minute. Oh, it feels heavy talking about it. Right. So obviously we're letting go of that. We're deviating away from it. But also ask yourself, what am I feeding my confidence today? So what can you do today that's going to help you to feed your confidence? Maybe that might be going and doing something with your horse, but breaking it down. Maybe that might be prepping for something. Maybe it might be a mental rehearsal of you out competing and, enjoying it. When I talk about visualization, I always try and emphasize, look, don't visualize the perfect thing. If there's something you've been worrying about, allow it to come up, but visualize yourself handling it. So let's say, I don't know, your horse misses a stride at a jump, or they're going too fast and you need to slow them down, or whatever. Allow it to come up, but then also see yourself dealing with it and moving on and away from it well. Okay? So here are a couple more practical tools for you. So before you're out competing. So before you unload your horse, take 5 slow breaths. So let's say breathe in for 5, breathe out for 5. Or you could breathe in for 4 and breathe out for 6. So just as you're listening now, in case you hear anything in the background, I don't know what's going on outside my house today. but it's people being loud and shouting, which is really helpful. So hopefully you can't hear that and you're just hearing my voice and you're thinking, I don't know what she's on about. So that's my hope. Anyway, moving on. Feel your feet. So let's come to your senses. So think about your feet on the ground. Look around you. Name 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can feel. Remind yourself, I'm here. My horse is here. This is today, in this moment. I don't need to ride yesterday's story. I don't need to ride anybody else's story. I'm here to ride mine. Okay? Now, here's a really important distinction I want you to make. Because, look, this is horses. We cannot predict everything about a horse, can we? We can't predict their mood. We can't predict that something's not going to leap out on us. We can't predict that they're going to stumble or fall. Like, we can't. Horses are horses. Events are events. We can't possibly account for everything. I can't say to you, you're going to be absolutely and exactly fine every time you go and compete, because that's just not that. There is always risk, isn't there? With any sport, there is risk. With horses, there's a little bit of a heightened risk because we are with live animals that are rather large, okay? I'm not here to pretend that you're perfectly safe in every way all the time. However, confidence in yourself and in your horse it's not about believing nothing bad can ever happen, because we're not idiots. But confidence is knowing you have prepared well. You trusting, this is a really good bit of advice that I used to hear a lot when I was in Canada. My good friend Nikki, her husband, used to say this to her whenever she was worried, and it's something I've always kept with me. He always used to say to her, or he still does probably say to her, trust in your training. Trust in your training. So think about, like, have you prepared well? Trust in that. Trust that you've done all the steps that you possibly can and you're as prepared as you'll ever be. Trust in your training. Trust that you will make sensible decisions. Trust that you will listen to your horse, and trust that you'll adapt when needed. Because you having confidence in yourself isn't about being certain, like, I am 100% going to do the best test or the best round that I've ever done, and we're going to be perfectly safe the whole way round. It is you trusting in yourself and your training. And that's all you can do, because none of us can predict any outcome, really, especially not with a horse. So, you know what? If you're going to go do it, you just got to trust in yourself, and that's it. So, if recent events have left you feeling unsettled, please know this is not a weakness. This is human. And you're allowed to be a human. You're allowed to care about the people and the horses involved. You're allowed. And because you care, this is going to affect us. And we can't help that. But we don't need to let other people's stories become your own future before you've even loaded your horse up for a competition, okay? You can be respectful and you can stay informed, and you can learn when there are lessons to learn. But also you get to come back to your own horse, your own journey, and your own partnership, because that's where your energy has the greatest chance of making a positive difference to you and your horse. So I hope today's episode was helpful. I know it's kind of a heavy topic to discuss. Yeah, it's a tough one, but I hope this was helpful today. And again, like, my heart and everything goes out to everyone involved in recent events from this year and, and last year as well. Like, it's not an easy thing. It's tough. It's tough to hear about, and God knows it will be tough for all of those involved. So yeah, my heart goes out to everyone, and sending, all the best wishes and respects I can to all involved. But also for you listening, I hope this is helpful, and I hope that it kind of has given you some tools to apply to your own life with your horse, especially if you are out competing. So, yes. And as always, if you enjoyed today's episode or you got something or you got what you needed from today's episode, then please let me know. You can share it with people who you might think need to hear it. And I will see you in next week's episode. And for now, yeah, just take what you need from today and go enjoy your horse. That's all from me. I'll see you in the next one.